Hey everyone, Mo here, and before the video begins, I just want to let you guys know that my schedule has opened up for me to do coaching again. So if you're interested in private one-on-one coaching for me to help you, whether you're a newer player and you want to excel at the game very quickly and learn the fundamentals without developing any bad habits early, or if you're an experienced player who's already maybe platinum or diamond in your top 1%, but you need some help filling in the gap to get you to that 0.01%, to make you just some of the best, then hit me up on Discord and I can get you in some private one-on-one coaching lessons to help you polish up any skills you want to refine and help you learn all of the secrets to becoming a top player. That's it. I hope you enjoy the video. Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm bringing you guys another Meta Monday. The first one in a long time, because up until this last Wednesday, game was pretty dead. I think it was this last Wednesday. I don't remember. Game obviously wasn't dead, but meta was very dead. It was literally the exact same decks for months. So, now, we got patched, though. We got patch notes. So, let's see if the patch notes actually changed the meta for now, how much it's changed the meta for now, and to see what decks are, in fact, dominating the meta now. But before we get into the Meta Monday, I want to remind you guys that 70% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me, so if you guys could do me a huge favor and help me out with the YouTube algorithm and click the subscribe button down below, turn the bell on so you get notification whenever I post. Meta Monday is deck guides. Tomorrow I'm coming out with the video for the 5 best decks to climb with, in my opinion. The 5 best decks for ladder at the moment. If you want all of that insightfulness, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment letting me know what deck you want a deck guide on in the future. And also, leave me your shitty deck ideas, because I'll be returning with another episode of Deck Doctor this week. So if you have a really shitty deck list or a really funny deck idea you want to try, you want to see me play it a couple of games, I'll pick it out and I'll play it. So with all that out the way, let's get into the Meta Monday. So, oh, I didn't mean to click on it. The most popular deck, which is, I'm sure, to nobody's surprise, by a 15% play rate, is Mono Shurima. So, it looks like the more popular version of Mono Shurima actually turns into the more mid-rangey version, playing things like Golden Ambassador, the, full Endless Devout, full Naturalist. You see here, it plays more Unraveled Earth, more Rite of Negation. That doesn't play any of the, Feral Prescience. I know that was a card people were playing. This basically isn't the swim version. The swim version was the first version to pop off. People were like, oh, it's all in predict style, turbo level my champions. People realized that the more mid-range you go, the higher win rate you got. You can see things from like Drizoth stats and Dr. LOR stats on Twitter. If you follow those guys, I highly recommend you do. I'm actually going to drop both of their Twitters down below in the description, because those guys are extremely helpful, extremely insightful whenever you're looking for stats. If you don't want to wait for Meta Mondays, or if you just want day-to-day stats, maybe something isn't as clear as you think it is, go check those guys out. They post amazing stats on just about everything revolving the meta and meta decks. But yeah, the idea behind this deck is you level Azir, you level up Azereth, you level up Sundisk, boom, you win the game. So a lot of us came to this deck. We saw the Quicksand buff. We saw the Azir buff was probably the biggest thing that had to do with all of this. And Mono Shurima isn't really a joke. It's definitely not nearly as broken as people think it is. I remember on launch day, everyone was like, oh my god, Mono Shurima broken, Mono Shurima broken. It's not broken, trust me. It's not crazy. But it is very good, and it's gonna be very good in tournaments if any of you are tournament players out there, competitive players, because this deck destroys control. It destroys control and is decent into mid-range depending on how you build it. So if you want to go all in on this, like, I beat Bandletree, I beat Lee Sin, I beat Darkness, I beat, SI Freljord control decks, this deck will fit perfectly into any lineup, because you will not be using Xerath, Azir, and you're not going to be playing Mono Shurima and like any of your other decks, more than likely. You might use Azir, but you're definitely not using the rest, like this package and the Mono Shurima package at all. So it will fit perfectly into just about any lineup that isn't playing exactly Azir Aurelia. Number 2, the most popular deck, and I believe the highest win rate deck. Yes, the highest win rate deck right now is Riven Victor. Let me pull up the deck list here for you guys. Riven Victor. So, this deck, we've seen this deck a lot, but thanks to the Victor buff, this deck got a lot better. This deck is basically just Reforged with Riven. Play out your Victors, your Rivens. I know I see some versions, this version isn't playing it, but some versions play the 1/3 Elusive Cat that has Augment. So some people are playing that version, and then you just go all in on one of those cards. You go all in with the Augment, then you have Might if your Victor or Riven's getting chump blocked by something. That's a free Might as a cheese kill. You have Burn with the Decimates, Get Excited, Mystic Shot. So this is basically just a Burn deck that kills your opponent with a big overwhelm unit, and then it's like, oh, I'm going to aggro you down. I'm going to kill you with this really big unit. If you stop this really big unit, I'm going to burn you out with Decimates, Get Excited, Mystic Shot, stuff like that. This deck is it's getting memed on a lot in the LoR community as being basically Pantheon. Basically, how it works is every time you play the spell from Victor, the Hex Core upgrade, he gets a new keyword, which is basically just Pantheon, right? So a lot of people are memeing about how Victor is actually just Pantheon 2.0, and that's a good way to look at the deck. It's kind of like a little bit aggro, but then you really win in the mid game with your big Victor, with your big keywords on it, and then things like the Might, Decimate, Get Excited to finish things out. Number 3, the third most played deck is another Noxus PNC deck, but it is not an aggro deck. It is Caitlyn Ezreal Control. Again, we saw a bunch of Caitlyn buffs. We saw a bunch of Flash Bomb buffs. So now we see people playing the Caitlyn. We see people playing the Peacemaker. Some decks are even playing the Sting Operator, the 1-mana 2/1. Or sorry, 2-mana 2/1. I think it's a 2-mana 2/1 that puts flashbangs on Nexus Strike. So we saw this deck coming back. I don't believe this deck has an insane win rate at all. No, it's about 54% win rate, so not bad, very respectable. Nothing too crazy yet. Basically, this deck is, I'm going to remove your everything. You run triple Scorched Earth, so you have a way to deal with Mono Shurima. You could say, okay, my turn 2, I'm just going to Scorched Earth your Sun Disc, and now you cannot win because your deck is not that good. On top of that, you have okay game into things like Scouts and other mid-range decks because you just kill all of their units. You play a bunch of blockers with things like House Spider. You get big tempo with things like Aloof Traveler, and then big tempo swings with things like Ragnoid Sentry, and then you have just insane removal spells with things like Ravenous Flock, the most infamous, like, debated whether it's broken or not broken removal spell since it came out. Now that Flash Bombs are actually reliable and a little bit less RNG, you can rely around those to kill things for you. Of course, you still get to play Tri-Beam, which is still really, really silly. The deck is really solid, and I'm glad to see this come back. When they nerfed Draven to the ground, people tried the, like, Caitlyn Ezreal thing, and it really just fell out of line. People didn't really like it as much. It kind of just got outvalued. Basically, you would spend all your time killing things, and you would kill your opponent's units, but they would just literally never run out of units. Because things like Bandletree and Targon were really, no, not Targon, but things like Bandletree were really prevalent in the meta, and everything just kind of outvalued you. So you can't just go 1-for-1 with your removal spells and then win late game with a Pharyn or an Ezreal or a Caitlyn or something like that. Because whenever you spent a spell on an opponent's unit, they have 2 more units. And it was really, really hard for you to fight back. But with less Bandle City being seen, this deck could easily come back and dominate the meta. Number 4, Aphelios Victor, another new deck that got buffed. Both Aphelios and Victor got buffed. The win rate on this deck is 53%, so again, not very high. But people love this deck. People were afraid of Aphelios. Aphelios has been a talking point amongst the community. Basically, since he came out, people were saying, oh my gosh, this Aphelios card is too broken. This Aphelios card is insane. And then the longer it goes, more people, especially the Brazilian community, were saying things like, Aphelios can go back to 2 mana, Aphelios goes to 2 mana, Aphelios goes to 2 mana. Riot finally listened and finally agreed, okay, we can give you Aphelios back, but you don't get Crescendum. So Crescendum's basically a non-card. They changed Crescendum so it doesn't pull a 2-drop out of your deck. It just gives you a random 2-drop from your region. Still not bad, but definitely not as broken, and you can't do broken things with it like you have in the past. Like, you can't get broken Sparkleflies, you can't get broken Boxopus. They essentially fixed the super broken thing that Aphelios was able to do, and just turned him into a really good value-generating unit. This was supposed to be a nerf to Yaya, with the amount of things that Aphelios can remove followers. Aphelios can stun followers for 2 rounds. Aphelios creates blockers. So this was supposed to be a nerf to Yordle Arms without actually nerfing the card Yordle Arms. But as we will see here, it didn't really do a too good job of that, because coming in at number 5 is, in fact, Yordle Arms with a 59.9, basically a 60% win rate. So for those of the people saying things like, And we'll get to Pantheon here in a minute as well. But for those people saying things like, oh, we're Jordan arms, all the doubters, everyone out here is saying things like, well, everyone was saying this patch sucked because no Jordan arms nerf. And everybody complained about the patch when it first came out because there was no Jordan arms nerf, there was no Pantheon nerf. And people were furious. A couple days go by, everyone's playing Mono Shurima, everyone's playing the new stuff, right? If you look at this, the most played things, all new. Mono Shurima, new. Riven Victor, new. Caitlyn Ezreal, new-ish. Felio Victor, new. So 3 of the top 4 decks, completely new. So everyone kind of looks at this and gets rose-colored glasses and thinks like, oh shit, like, everyone who got mad about the patch, you're all idiots. Who's laughing now? Like, why are you so angry? Where is Yaya? LOL, where's Pantheon? Like, these decks aren't even a thing. It's all just these. If you look at the stats, these decks are still nuts. Like, Jordan Arms is still out here putting up 60% win rates through something that's supposed to hard counter it, through something else that's supposed to counter it. Like, Jordan Arms is still just absolutely bonkers. The play rate's just low because people are trying out new things. And this is what everyone was talking about. Everybody knows that when a patch first comes out with a bunch of changes, the first week is going to look really good. Possibly even the second week is going to look really good as far as the different amount of decks that are being played and possibly the new amount of decks that are being played. But it's after the second week, a week and a half to 2 weeks in, is when people quickly start to realize maybe this patch was as good as we thought because, hey, Jordan Arm's still broken. Hey, Pantheon's still broken. Hey, this Mono Shurima deck, not as good as we thought. This Felio's deck, not as good as we thought. And that's when people start to get really upset. And they're like, oh my god, Jordan Arm's still broken, blah, 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 blah. And they start crying about it again. And the community just gets split in half, where half the people say, haha, told you so, and laugh at you. And the other half of the community goes, wah, shut up, no one asked you. Plus L plus ratio. So, it's very exciting to see that Jordan Arms has dropped all the way down to the 5th spot. The win rate is still insane, and I'm not going to go over it too much because it's literally the exact same deck as before. Some people took out Conchologists in order to fit like a Treasure Trash and some more removal spells in, and like Scrap Heap, because Scrap Heap is better now. But for the most part, it's literally the exact same deck as before. You're still playing Telescope, like it's still silly. And number 6, Pantheon Yumi. Again, don't need to go over this too much. The Pantheon nerf, making him a 3-2 instead of a 4-2. Irrelevant, not really a nerf. Literally the exact same deck as before. And still boasting an insane 58% win rate. Both of those are still higher. There is one deck in the top 8 that is higher than both of those. Like, so out of the top 8 most played decks, there is one, which is Riven Victor, which has an insane win rate. And this deck is good, right? This deck appears to be very good. Outside of Riven Victor, Yaya and Pantheon still absolutely dominate and blow the other 6 decks or 5 decks out of the water. So again, to re-emphasize the fact that this patch did not actually change the top decks from the previous, including Scouts. Let me show you something. Let me show you, for those people saying like, well, Mo, they also nerfed Scouts. So where's Scouts, huh? Where's Scouts at? Yeah, where is Scouts, huh? That's crazy. Where is Scouts at, chat? Where is Scouts? I don't see Scouts anymore. Yeah, I've literally exclusively been climbing with Scouts. And it's been absolutely nuts. You just farm Azir Zareth. You farm, like, these aggro decks. You farm, like, random garbage. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 8. On my last 8 games, like, look at, oh my goodness, dude. On my last 8 games, I'm 7-1 with it, right? Like, a 70% win rate. This Scouts is still nuts. People just aren't playing it because people see, oh, wow, Sharpside got nerfed, let me cry about it, instead of let me just play it anyways, because you still have really good matchups into the rest of the meta. Like, it turns out Riot Games is pretty okay at balancing things without completely gutting decks. But card gamers don't know that. Card gamers see, oh my god, my deck got nerfed, this card got nerfed, card unplayable. And that's not necessarily the case with Scouts. It's just more balanced now, and that's, you know, better, still good matchups, still bad matchups, so... Scouts is still really good. Some people will figure that out. Coming in number 7, number 8, though. More newish decks. So number 7 is Ziggs Talia, going up in play rate. Basically, this deck was kind of underrated before. The reason it's getting away with things now is because the Quicksand buff. Quicksand was able to solve a lot of its mid-range issues. The deck still folds really, really hard to aggro, but it beats control really hard, and its mid-range matchup got a lot easier thanks to Quicksand being able to target 2 different units now. So this is another deck that you could put in your lineup if you're a competitive player and playing in tournaments, if you're really looking to beat control matchups, because it is very, very good into those matchups. The big overwhelm units are very hard to deal with unless your opponent has their own Quicksand or Hush or some type of stun, which aren't really too common. And coming in at number 8 is Azir Irelia, the SpongeBob Patrick region. So, basically the only reason this deck's being played is because it beats Azir Irelia. It loses really hard to Caitlyn. Here, let me pull up its matchup tables for you guys. Let me do, like, it loses really hard to Caitlyn, Ezreal. It loses really hard to Bird. Loses quite hard to, like, Aphelios. Loses quite hard to Pantheon. Loses quite hard to, look at a 16% win rate against Yaya. Like, loses to Scouts, right? So it loses to all of these other good decks, but it beats Azir Irelia. It beats not War Mothers. What is this? It beats Targon's Peak. It beats this control deck. It beats this control deck. It beats this control deck. So you basically put Azir Irelia in your deck if you're hitting a bunch of control decks and you just don't want to play against them. But if you want to beat a good majority of this top 8, it's not very good. Like, it's bad into this deck, bad into this deck, bad into this deck, bad into this deck, bad into this deck. Like, you literally beat Zigzalia just because that deck's not very good unless it's also against control. And you beat Azir Irelia. You beat Azir Azera. That's literally it. So, overall, I think the meta for this week is very exciting and looked like a lot of fun. And going into ladder is going to be a lot of fun. Going into the next few weeks, I'm still not very optimistic. People can call me a doomsayer or a doomer. Call me what you want. The stats don't lie. You still have Yaya and Pantheon boasting insane win rates right up here with Riven Victor does look like a really good deck and is a new really good deck. Outside of Riven Victor, there are no other decks that stand up to the stats that Yaya and Pantheon are still putting on. And on top of that, my personal stats with Scouts, which is of course like anecdotal and cherry picked because I'm just one person. I can't provide a plethora of Scout information. But my Scouts like win rate has been absolutely nuts as well. So again, those are literally like the 3 top decks from the last patch still being absolutely dominated. The top deck from the last patch that seems to have gotten the most fucked was most certainly Lee Sin and Darkness, because like they've printed so much control hate. Like Azir Irelia, control hate. Riven Victor, control hate. Scouts is still control hate. Yaya is still control hate. Pantheon, Yumi still control hate. Azir Irelia is back in the meta. That's control hate. So they made so many good decks that are just say fuck you control, that control is pretty laughable at the moment outside of things like Caitlyn Ezreal, but that's more mid-range than control. So right now, this last week, very hopeful. Going into this week, still be kind of hopeful. The week after that, I'm not very hopeful. I think it'll just go back to being Yaya, Pantheon, Riven Victor. That's what I think the top 8 is going to be in 2 weeks from now, okay? Or less. In 2 weeks from now or less, this is my top 8 prediction. Pantheon, Yaya, Scouts, Riven Victor, some Aphelios deck, so that's 5. It's going to be Darkness, because people just love playing Darkness, even though it's going to have a horrible win rate, though, sub 50% win rate. That's going to be 6 of your top 8. Darkness with a sub 50% win rate, and the other 5 I listed. So that's going to be it for this Meta Monday. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to tune in next Monday for another Meta Monday. I'm going to go back to doing these regularly as long as the meta is shifting. There was a couple weeks there where I didn't do a Meta Monday. It's not because I forgot or got lazy. It was just simply the fact that the meta did not change, and I did not want to waste your time or my time in a 10-minute video by saying the exact same things I said for the last 3 weeks prior to that video. If you guys would like, let me know in the comments down in the future. If the meta hasn't changed, if you want me to just make a short, like, 2-minute video saying basically the meta, like, there is no change in the meta, so that way you know that instead of just wondering, oh, did Mo just forget? Where's Mo at? Did he die? Where's no video? I hate this guy. He's not consistent. Like, let me know in the comments if you'd rather me do that, because I've had so many people say things like, where's your Meta Monday? Meta Monday win. Where's Meta Monday? What changed? And so if that's what you guys want, let me know. But that's going to be it for this video. Again, subscribe here. Go follow me on Twitch, because I run there almost every single day. Go join my Discord, so you get notifications whenever I do anything.